Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL's Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, Chris Smitherman back producing behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb, and we've got
And
Zozo.
that's a Zozo. Yeah, we got Zozo today
to begin the show.
Yep.
She wants to join in on the speculation that we're going.
Oh yeah, she's got a lot of opinions.
We have reached the point of the NFL draft season where we know nothing and everything is speculation. And we're really, really reaching at this point for something to talk about. And I hope that isn't a deterrent for people to shut us off, that we have nothing good to say today. But I think it's true that, the NFL draft needs to be here. And it is here. We're about 5 days away now. But we're going to go through some fun scenarios that we're not sure how likely they really are to happen, but some things that some writers, threw against the wall, and we're going to entertain the possibility of them perhaps happening. And those are some trade back scenarios for the Falcons in the first round of the 2024 NFL draft.
Yeah, this is the last stage of the process is media, writers for fan sites, writers for, national.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody. It's not just blogs. It's
right.
Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, they get in on the mud too. They're involved and everybody's doing it at this point of the draft process.
Right. So, it's fun. And that's about all I can say about it is it's fun to speculate. You got to have something to do for the next 5 days. So you might as well speculate about things that your team can do, things that might happen. And all the there's just so many different scenarios. I think most of the draft boards are kind of cast in cement around the NFL, but as I say every year, the draft is a strange animal. Once things start happening for real on Thursday night, everybody's going to be surprised by something. So, why not cast your net and see if you can't hit on one of the one of the surprises.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the word surprise, because we were just talking before going on air that we've been touting the Falcons to take an edge rusher really for years. It seems like they're in the perfect spot again to get that edge rusher, Dallas Turner, or maybe they could go off the board and take Jared Verse or the UCLA guy who I'm still struggling to pronounce his name, but I believe it's Latu. I was arguing with you before we went on that it will not be a surprise to me anyway if that isn't the pick. That the Falcons have made so many surprising picks since I've been covering the team that it's no longer a surprise when they don't pick who I think they should, I guess is really the point. And that goes all the way back to Chris Lindstrom, really. Like I was shocked that they picked him in the first round in 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a great pick. So not all of these surprise picks were bad picks, but it was kind of surprising. It was, I think, really surprising that they went off the board and drafted a guard after addressing guard and the offensive line that free agency. So, I mean, it makes sense that just from a side of the ball standpoint, they went heavy offense in free agency. Obviously, Kirk Cousins being the big free agent addition. Right. It makes sense that this draft is going to be heavy defense, especially a first round pick being a defensive player. But hey, could they take a wide receiver? I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised.
No. Unfortunately, I agree with you, Dave. It would not be a surprise. They've done it before. They've tried to grab these, difference makers at the specialty positions, and to me, that's one of the reasons why this team still has problems.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure they could. I mean, there's going to be plenty of good receivers available when they pick out, the receiver out of Oregon, Roman Adunze, and
Washington.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, he could very well be on the board when the Falcons get ready to pick. And, I think you can get a wide receiver. There's a lot of people who are saying you can get a defensive end, a pass rusher later in the draft. I think you get a wide receiver later in the draft. And you can do a lot better at it than trying to get a pass rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Absolutely. My point was I wouldn't be surprised if they went wide receiver again. It still is arguably a need. And if you're going heavy offense, hey, if you're trying to just outscore people, okay, yeah, you could use another a dynamic wide receiver too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's much easier to find a wide receiver too in the second round, third round, than a top tier edge rusher that's going to get 10 sacks every season of his rookie contract.
Right.
You're not going to find that on day two. You might be able to find that on day two if you already have an elite edge rusher that you're just trying to pair another guy with, that because there's so much attention on like a TJ Watt or like Aiden Hutchinson, right? The Lions could use another edge rusher. If you pair somebody from the day two with Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to look a lot better. But the Falcons aren't in that situation. The Falcons are looking for Aiden Hutchinson, quite frankly. They're looking for that guy. And you're not finding Aiden Hutchinson on day two.
No, you're not. Absolutely not. And we've seen that. We've seen the Falcons keep trying that, trying to find that impact guy either through free agency or on day two where, again, it always comes back to this thought. He's going to we can fix him. We can make him better. Our system is going to make him better. So that's kind of what always frustrates me. Take the guy who has the talent and mold him into a better, an NFL caliber pass rusher, instead of taking a guy who's maybe down on the board a little bit, more questionable in skill, and say, we're going to make him a top pass rusher. Once we get him in our training system, once we get him on the field, once we give him instruction, he's going to go from here to here. It doesn't it happens, but not a whole lot. You can't build your draft around it.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking those kind of players on day two and early on day three, or even, I guess, late on day three. That's why they're day three picks, because there is a lot of risk to those guys. They do have high potential, and really somebody who has high potential that you're getting on day three is a good pick because it's such a low, value.
Yeah.
At that point, if he could turn into a star, then great. There's no risk there.
Right.
But counting on that year after year as, well, this is how we're going to find our elite edge rusher is the wrong approach. I think it's the wrong approach.
Yes, it is.
This is what you're arguing as well.
Right. You got to take the guy who has the skills in place, who just needs everything kind of brought together. And the guy that can but you don't agree with me? the guy that is going to, who has all the tools, who has all the moves, who has the physical characteristics, but needs that NFL. He needs to get used to the speed of the game, because you're stepping up in speed of the game from college to NFL, and that's kind of what I'm looking for here. What the Falcons need to do is, you can't teach a guy skills. You can't teach those basic skills. So if you got a guy who has them, you got to take him, because you're not going to teach a second round pick how to do this or what needs to be done.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app when you do use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So some free money for you. It's a great way to support our show. You'll be supporting us by using our promo code. And even though there are no NFL props right now, I don't think they do any props for the NFL draft, do they?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't think so. That'd be pretty crazy if they did. But there's MLB stuff. I was at the game last night in Atlanta, Tom. Travis d'Arnaud went deep 3 times. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was the second time. I think this is the second time. I've seen it at least twice. If there's another one that I don't remember, I guess it's possible. But it was the second time that I can recall seeing a player hit 3 home runs in a game, which is really cool. First time was Andrew McCutchen. So that's kind of like modern day royalty in Pittsburgh baseball.
Really is, yes.
Seeing d'Arnaud do it was really cool last night. So it was an exciting moment, and grand slam was the last home run. So you can use the Prize Picks to make MLB entries. NHL playoffs start today. NBA playoffs start coming up. The first round, like, how do they call these playing games? Are those playoff games, or are those playing games and they're different? The reason why I ask is I actually saw a notification saying that, I forget which team it was, but it said this team is qualified for the playoffs, and I think they were in the playing game. So they won the playing game. So the playing game doesn't count as the playoffs. Clearly, I'm showing my NBA knowledge right now, but.
Well, right now, I have no idea what the NBA is doing anymore. Between their in-season tournament and this just insane playoff scenarios, how they're, these play-in games. If they think they're the NCAA tournament or what.
So you're not a fan of the playing games?
Oh, no. Hell no. It's what you play your season for, to figure out who your playoff teams are. Why play a season? Why bother? If you don't know who your playoff teams are after 82 games, you got a problem. Your league has a problem.
I don't know. I think their TV ratings probably disagree with you.
Well,
that's why they do it, right? Because they get these 2 extra games, and they're game 7s because it's exciting. And my problem with it is there's just too many teams are making the playoffs at this point, across all leagues.
Yes, I agree.
This isn't Little League where every team should make the playoffs.
No. I'm sorry if somebody gets, left out of the playoffs. They're 1 game behind. They miss by a game. Well, you should have won that game. It's, and then a team gets shut out of the playoffs after having a great season. Well, it obviously wasn't that great of a season if you're out of the playoffs. But then the trend is to try and make sure that team makes the playoffs the following years. So nobody is shut out the way somebody, just had been. And it's frustrating to me. It's just, you're in professional sports. And sometimes you're going to miss. You're going to lose out by a game. And my usual answer to that is, well, win the damn game. Then you'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't agree with the sentiment entirely, but the overall, I guess the overall what you're saying is, yeah, I agree with is it's professional sports, and it's not. We shouldn't be trying to get everyone to participate in the playoffs.
No.
But money is what drives it, and people are watching these playing games. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NHL decides that they want to do a play-in scenario. There was a writer from Pittsburgh who said the NHL should adapt that. I think maybe he was saying that because the Penguins would have been in that. They didn't end up making the playoffs. So maybe they would have if it was 10 teams instead of 8. I think there was some bias to that column. But
well, I remember when the NHL had 24 teams and 21 made the playoffs or something like that. There was only 4 or 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs by the end of the year, which was just, incredibly asinine.
So this issue that we're talking about goes back a long time for certain leagues, because I think in the NHL it's been 16 playoff teams for a while, and they didn't always have 32 teams, which they have now. So they've gotten. I don't think half the league should make the playoffs, but actually, it didn't used to be. It used to be a greater percentage, like a lot greater percentage, like 70%, 80% of the teams making the playoffs. And NFL, I really don't feel like it should be 14 teams.
No,
that's too close to 50%. But it used to be 12, and they didn't have. In the 90s, they didn't have 32 teams. Probably at one point, they only had 28 when it was 12.
But at some point, they had teams that they wanted in the playoffs that didn't make the playoffs, so they decided to expand. And it doesn't. It still doesn't work that way. The first weekend of games are not any good. We've seen that. A lot of these teams that are squeaking into the playoffs now in the expanded format are getting wiped out pretty quickly.
Definitely
they don't go very far.
Definitely the 2-7 matchup. 3-6 under the old format, and even today's format, the 3 still plays 6. We see 6 upset 3 regularly.
Right.
So that was it happened this year. The Cowboys lost to Green Bay. That was a 3-6 matchup. Correct?
Yeah.
That was a 3-6? Or was that? No, that was 2-7.
One of the few 2-7s that actually.
Actually, that was 2-7. I think that was the first 7 seed that won. Actually, now that I think about it, because Dallas was ahead of Detroit because of the controversial game.
Right.
And Tampa Bay was the 4 seed. So, yes, Dallas was the 2. So we didn't have a 3-6 upset this year. We had a 2-7 upset. But that's rare. That's the only 2-7 upset we've had since the expanded.
Right. Exactly.
Since the expanded format.
And they're usually not good games.
Right.
So,
yes.
These teams that they've expanded the playoffs for aren't worth it. They're not worth getting there. They're not worth making room for. It's extra money. It's extra, dollars in the pocket. You get an extra game every week, during the playoffs.
Yeah, Corey agrees with us, and he brings up a good point about players taking time off during the regular season because the regular season means less. That's why I think so many people love college football, although that's being watered down as well. I think for good, though, because I don't think it should just be having a committee decide who the 2 best teams are and putting them in the championship. There needs to be some kind of playoff system, but not a 64-team playoff system like college basketball. They could have they're going to expand to 8, and I think that's probably the right number.
That's about as far as you want to go.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Corey's right that the regular season means less in professional sports because of that you're going to be in the playoffs regardless.
Yeah. Well, it's happened in the NBA the last couple of years. A coach will give his starters basically a game off. You're playing a preseason game. You're playing an exhibition game. And fans are paying good money to go see this game. They're not doing it at home. They're doing it on the road where they're resting players. So they're ready for the postseason. It's a travesty for the fans. I feel bad for the fans who pay big money to go see these games when they're not seeing a real NBA game. So I've washed my hands of the NBA a long time ago. I'm just really disgusted by it.
Really? Wow. Okay. I didn't know you were so anti-NBA.
I'm not anti-NBA. I like the game. I don't like what they're doing with the game. Again, almost like baseball. You got to have a commissioner who actually likes the game. I don't think in baseball, I don't think Rob Manfred actually likes the game that he's commissioner of. And I kind of see the same thing in Adam Silver in the NBA. I don't know if he likes the game he's commissioner of. It's just, I would rather have somebody who enjoys the game and be commissioner of the game and make moves that actually work for the fans and not just, putting money in the owner's pockets.
Well, to be fair, the NFL does the same stuff.
Not to that extreme.
You don't think so? All the Amazon Prime stuff and all of these flex scheduling late in the season. I mean, you can flex into Monday Night Football. That you're traveling in if you've bought tickets in May for a game that's on Sunday in December, and then that game gets switched to Monday Night Football. That's not for the fans.
No, it's not for the fans. It isn't. I don't think they're getting as bad as the NBA yet. Now they could. They're getting there. They could be coming close. I agree with what you're saying that.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I mean,
no,
I like the NFL more than the NBA as well, but I don't really have any dislike for the way the NBA is run either, though.
So at some point, it just gets ridiculous, and I would like to see it. I know money is important. I know the players want more, the owners want more. But at some point, it can't keep supporting itself. But of course, people have been saying that for the last 2 decades. So, I don't know.
Yeah. People in this country go crazy for sports and crazy for football.
Yeah.
So, I think Corey's right. Sports overall. Well, I wouldn't. It is a money grab. It's a business, is what I would say. I don't know, money grab, but yeah, it's definitely business. Definitely a business.
I mean, going back in sports history, going back in baseball history, NFL history, it always has been. But in a way that it really didn't water down the game. They kept trying to make the game more interesting for the fans, yes, and trying to increase attendance and doing, but they never tried to, increase playoffs or do something different with the playoffs, do something different with the format. Put in pitch clocks. So
still don't like the pitch clock?
I thought they had the rule in place anyway. You didn't need the pitch clock. All the umpire had to do was say, the umpire does not need to call timeout every time it's requested.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to look at the impact of the game's being shortened by the pitch clock and not say that it's working.
I know it's working. Yes, it's working.
I will say I still don't like the extra inning rule where you start with a runner on second base.
That's horrible.
Still don't like that, but
no.
But that also does what it's intended to do. It makes the extra inning games much, much shorter. There are no 19-inning games anymore, which is sad. But
that's because managers have forgotten how to use their pitching staff in case there is a farther extra inning game. They use their pitching staffs up in 9 innings. And that's pretty much it. And
well, yeah, you're right, but that's just the way it is today. I mean, you got starting pitchers going 4 or 5 innings. You don't have any starting pitchers go 7 innings anymore.
Nope. And I think that's the way they're taught in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
They're taught to go as hard as they can for as long as they can, and we'll take the game over, and that's it. You used to get taught how to get through the middle of the game. You don't use your best stuff through the entire game. You establish yourself in the first two innings. Then you kind of use your breaking pitch. You keep the ball down. You try and get ground balls. You try and get through the first, the middle 3 innings. Maybe not your best stuff, but stuff, that'll get outs with. Then you come back with your best stuff for the 8th and 9th innings. And see, that's why I used to love Justin Verlander.
One of my favorites.
Because that's how Verlander did it. Verlander was throwing 90s in the 8th and 9th inning, mid-90s, because he saved his arm for the 8th and 9th inning.
Yeah.
He'd get through the middle of the game with some of his breaking stuff and maybe fastballs that, were maybe low 90s. And then when it came time for the 8th inning, you couldn't hit him anymore. So that's why I was always a huge Verlander fan, because I was like, this is an old-time pitcher. This is a guy who knew how to do it. This is a guy who could have pitched back, in the 60s and 70s and competed with all of them because he knew how to pitch. And I don't think they know how to pitch anymore. And it's frustrating to me. So,
but I think you made the point that that's how they're taught, that they're taught to go 100% all the time. And when they can't give 100% anymore, they go to the next guy in the bullpen who can give 100%. A lot of these guys throwing close to 100 miles an hour at this point. So a lot of it is velocity as well. You want to throw hard. And that's the location.
And they don't want a pitcher to face a guy for the 3rd time in a game. Well,
that as well. Yeah.
At a point, if you're not throwing your best fastball, or you're throwing your best curveball, but you're not throwing your best fastballs at that point. The batters are still seeing something different their 3rd and 4th times up, because now all of a sudden you're ramping up again. But I don't know if we'll ever go back to the days of pitchers actually knowing how to pitch their way through 9 innings. It used to be a mark against the pitcher. If a starter couldn't go 9 innings, he wasn't really considered an effective starter. And that's changed.
A lot of it has to do with money as well. That these pitchers get paid a lot, obviously. All players do. And you want to protect your investment, protect those arms. And that protection starts in the minor leagues. Even when they're not making a ton of money, hey, this guy was a 1st-round pick. We gave him this bonus, whatever. So we're going to not throw him more than 3 innings in this start, 4 innings, whatever it might be. Even if he's been effective, not giving up any runs, or they don't get stretched out.
I know.
It's 9 innings anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw that as well, Corey, written by, I forget who suggested that online, but yeah, in today's baseball, Atlanta may never have had a Maddox or Glavine or Smoltz. I mean, Smoltz didn't throw super hard either. He wasn't Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson.
No.
They were all three of those guys were location and mix up your pitches, especially Maddox. So
Maddox is one of the smartest pitchers ever been out there. I put him as one of the smartest pitchers to ever play the game. And because he never had great stuff, but he always made the ball move and was just incredible. But yeah, Glavine and Smoltz had the arms, but they knew how to get through a game. And it's rough to watch anymore when a pitcher can't get through a game the way that they used to. Yeah, Glavine be throwing smoke in the 8th and 9th innings. And, it's the same thing as Verlander. He'd get you through the game and be ready to throw smoke late in the game. And there was nothing you could do about it. You couldn't hit him. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It's that kind of mentality. It's funny, the Braves had 3 pitchers like that, through the 90s. How the Braves were able to, I don't know if I would say nurture, but they came up with 3 pitchers who really understood how to pitch and understood how to get through a game and understood how to approach hitters, what to do with each at bat, and had a plan for their game. And it's rare for a staff to have one of those now. And the Braves had 3 of them.
Yeah.
Got one of them from the Cubs, but we won't talk about that.
They got Smoltz from the Tigers as well.
Yeah.
So
Cubs decided they didn't want to pay Maddox.
That was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
We have a question from Gary to get back to our Falcons draft.
Yeah, let's get back to the Falcons.
He says, what's your best guess for most surprising players to fall out of the first round?
Wow. That's a very good question, Gary. Gary, you always challenge me with these things. I don't know. I know he suggested McCarthy. I think McCarthy does, because so many teams need that quarterback right now. And I think teams are going to trade up for McCarthy. I think that might be one of the scenarios we see, either the Giants or the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be surprised to see McCarthy taken as a top 10 quarterback, but I don't know if he's a top 10 quarterback. I think Latu can maybe fall out of the first round just because he's had injuries in his career. Now, he's played healthy the last 2 years, but sometimes that can influence a scout's judgment of a player, or a front office's judgment of a player, is whether he's been hurt. So I think it's possible Latu falls. I don't think he will. As I think teams do understand the importance of an edge rusher, if it's, even if it's not the Falcons.
Right. Yeah.
So, God, I've looked at a lot of mock drafts, and it's hard to say. As I say, the one I might see is Latu. I can't see a lot of top players. busting out of the first round. Kool-Aid McKinstry is supposed to be in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if he falls to the second round.
Yeah, that's a good
As a
name.
matter of fact, the way the draft currently stands, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kool-Aid McKinstry there for the Falcons in the second round. And as I say, he's going to be my new favorite name.
Right. Yeah. You said that before. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be my new favorite name. So if he's on the Falcons, that's great. Because we get to say Kool-Aid McKinstry every week. I'm all for it. I want to know, is that a nickname or was he actually named that?
I don't know. That is a good question. I'd have to look that up.
I don't think you're going to see any running backs in the first round. This is not a running back heavy. I don't think the running backs are very impressive in this draft. So, yeah, I don't think if you see any running backs mocked to teams in the first round, I would say, no, they're going to fall out. They're not going to make it. I'm looking through some prospects right now just to see if I can come up with any better names. But
I agree with Larry Orange here. He throws out Michael Penix Jr. Maybe we're not considering him a first round pick, and that's fair. So maybe he doesn't qualify. But I don't think he will go in the first round. I think he's an obvious guy.
I think Bo Nix will fall.
Another guy that probably doesn't count as a first round pick, but could be. So yeah, that's another one that I don't think will go in the first round.
Right. But I think, between Williams, Daniels, Drake May, and J.J. McCarthy, I think they're all going to go first round. I think they're all going to go high. Because I think teams are going to trade up for McCarthy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're going to try and get him. So I would say, that's about as good as I can do for you, Gary.
Well, speaking of trading up for J.J. McCarthy, in order to do that, a team has to agree to trade back. And one of the teams that's been floated as a candidate to trade back, whether it's for a team trading up for a quarterback or something else, has been the Atlanta Falcons. We kind of suggested the idea of Atlanta moving back just a few slots, Tom, last week. And in one of the scenarios we proposed, we actually thought it could be part of the punishment for the tampering with Kirk Cousins. They moved back to number 11 with the Minnesota Vikings. But two trades that I saw in mock drafts this week from the Bleacher Report was the first one. That the article was trades that teams in the top 10 could make or should consider. I forget the exact wording, but it was all just hypothetical. What one trade that a team could make that has a top 10 pick, and the trade for the Falcons at number 8 was to move back with the Dallas Cowboys. So that would have the Falcons move all the way back to 24th overall in this proposed trade. They also landed a second-round pick, 56th overall, and a 2025 first-rounder for number 8 overall, which would be sent to Dallas. And then in a different trade proposal, SB Nation's mock draft had the Falcons moving back from 8 to number 19 with the Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams moving up to get the Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt. And Alt was also mentioned as a possible Cowboys target in the trade-up scenario from Bleacher Report. So what was your reaction to this idea that the Falcons could not just move back, but move back 9, 10, 11 spots in this year's draft? Either trade scenario would result in a first-round pick next year. So Falcons are looking at 2 selections in the 2025 first round if they made a trade like this. But it also would mean Dallas Turner would not be there at number 19 or number 24. Jared Verse would not be there. Interestingly, the UCLA edge rusher Alatu Latu was there in the
Yes.
SB Nation mock draft, and that's who they had the Falcons drafting at 19th overall. And we said if they could get Latu at 11 after trading back, would be terrific. So it would be awesome if they could do that, moving back to 19 and still getting the UCLA edge rusher. But I doubt that that's possible. And if you don't get any of those 3 edge rushers, I mean, is it worth getting a first round pick next year if you're not going to get an elite player this year?
See, that's the problem, because right now they are in a position to get an elite player. To me, if you're in the top 10, you got to get a Pro Bowl caliber player. Now, there are a lot of people who say Latu is that Pro Bowl caliber player, and I've seen him drop in a lot of mock drafts. Bucky Brooks on NFL.com and a couple others on NFL.com have Latu actually going late. Oh, Chad Reuter. That's who I was trying to remember. He's their big draft expert.
Yeah.
He has Latu going, Latu going pretty far down in that scenario. And I would say the Falcons could probably get him there. I don't want to see them draft too far back in the first round, because I would still like to see them either get Verse or Turner.
Yeah.
As I say, the 2 different rushers. Verse is more of a strength rusher. You know, he's going to use his power more. Turner's going to use his body. He can do things with his body to get around tackle. More of a finesse tackle. Probably will gain strength as he enters the NFL. I would hate to see them lose out on either of those 2, because I think they're going to be the best in the draft. But yeah, you talk about people wanting to trade up for JJ McCarthy. There's teams that want to trade up for Joe Alt. This is a guy who's actually played left tackle in college and is being projected as a left tackle in the NFL, which you don't see much. You see a lot of left tackles in college get projected to be right tackles in the NFL. Alt is considered to be, one of those special talents at left tackle. So, yeah, he's going to be in demand.
Which is interesting, because I think you're absolutely right that he's the best of the tackles in this class, but it's a deep tackle class. So it's just interesting that a team would want to trade up for a guy like that when they could get, somebody at 24 who's pretty solid. Wouldn't be the prospect that Alt is, of course. And if you're looking for the left tackle position only, then Alt is the guy. But there are a lot of tackles that are going to be available 10 to 20, 10 to 25, I would say, that have a lot of potential that could play either left or right tackle.
Well, I would say the Cowboys at this point probably feel like they need that left tackle to solidify their pass blocking, and to make their offense better. And a second, maybe a second tier guy is not going to do it.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You get the guy that you're going to plug in week 1 as your left tackle, and he is going to protect your quarterback's blind side. And
right. Yep. And there's something to be said about a guy that can play right away, that he's no development needed. He's going to step in and be the guy from day one. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the Falcons is
right.
They have an opportunity. Maybe Turner isn't the shoe-in starter from day one that Alt is, but I mean, it would be a surprise if Turner is not a highly productive guy by the middle of his rookie season.
Yeah.
And the Falcons have an opportunity to add somebody like that. And
right.
I agree with you. It should be hard to pass up that opportunity.
It should be. Terrence Moore, I saw the video he did a couple of days ago. He is all for Dallas Turner. He is just, you don't do Dallas Turner, you've done it wrong. So it's interesting. Check out Terrence's video on Atlanta Sports Unlimited and see what he has to say. He is just he unequivocally says, you get Dallas Turner right now. But that's the thing, put Dallas Turner. He comes into the Falcons, gets some time at the training table, even though the Players Association report card says the Falcons training table isn't very good. But, you get him in your training room, you get him, with a nutrition program, and you start strengthening this guy and adding to what he can do. And I think I agree with you. I think maybe halfway through the season, he is the tackle. He is the edge rusher you're looking for. I think Verse has the better potential to be the edge rusher from week 1. I think Verse is going to be better than Turner. I think Turner is going to be better than Verse as their careers go on, though.
Right.
So... Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. Corey Carter. Terrence Moore. He's not a fan of Terrence Moore. So, but I don't want to move that far back in the draft because I still think the Falcons need an impact player. And you only get those high up in the draft. You get those impact players. The only other thing I've been seeing a lot is that the Falcons pass on Turner and go with the cornerback. Go with, I forget his name now.
You're talking about the guy from Toledo, Quinnen Mitchell?
Yeah. Where the Falcons actually end up with him and kind of putting the heat on A.J. Terrell a little bit to be to kind of up his game next season and prove that he's worthy of a larger contract, a larger, second NFL contract that. Well, and it's hard to say because we don't know what Turner's asking for. Terrell. We don't know what Terrell's asking for. So, but I've seen some speculation now that the Falcons might actually go with the cornerback, but I still don't think that gets you where you need to be. The Falcons are terrible at getting teams behind the chains. Now, they were better with pressures last year. They were getting after the quarterback, but they weren't getting the quarterback behind the chains. They weren't getting him down.
Right. They weren't getting a lot of sacks still.
No. And second and long and third and long, those Denny's menus that coaches hold on the sidelines with all their plays, their options get a lot smaller once you're looking at second and long and third and 14, 15. Those are hard downs to get. Those are ways you get your defense off the field is by getting that one good rush where you get to the quarterback, where you get him down. And, that's still the big weakness in this Falcons game. And I think your secondary gets better if you do that.
Yeah.
It's impossible to cover an NFL receiver for a full 4 seconds. You can't do it.
Not with the rules today.
No.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do. You give an NFL receiver 4 seconds, he's going to find an opening. So you've got to prevent opponents from getting that 4 seconds. You got to cut that time the quarterback has in the pocket in half and make him think, don't give him time to think. when he's back there. Don't give him time to stare off your safety, or don't give him time to see that cornerback who's kind of laying in wait, waiting for the ball to hit the air before he makes his jump. You know, these are the kind of things that you get with an edge rusher that you don't get with anybody else on the defense. You know, he's going to help your secondary make plays. And that's why it keeps frustrating me to see the Falcons not go there. And I know everybody's talking about Calais Campbell isn't signed yet. Calais Campbell is not that guy.
Yeah.
He was that guy 5-6 years ago. Yes, he could be that guy. He's not that guy.
I mean, we had the Falcons had him last year, and he had a productive, solid season. But yeah, we're talking about the issues that the Falcons had with their pass rush last year, and didn't get the quarterback down enough, didn't have enough sacks, didn't have enough negative plays. Campbell was on the team. So, I mean, how is another year of him being older? Is he going to change any of that?
So it makes such a huge difference in your defense. It changes what you can do when teams are looking at 2nd and 12, 3rd and 15, where you actually make, you know, the offense have to make a play, and you force them into mistakes that way. And you also force them to think that they can't get behind the chains. They start worrying about the fact that you can get them at any time. And it makes it difficult for a sustained drive. Because that's the thing, if a quarterback is always looking at 2nd and less than 10, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, the odds are they're going to sustain that drive. Your defense is going to stay on the field. And it's hard to make a defense go that way. You can still get big plays. Tougher to make big plays when everybody on offense has a chance to think, he has a chance to react, he has a chance to figure out what you're doing. You got to cut those sustained drives down. And that's one of the things the Falcons were terrible at last year. When a team had a chance to make a sustained drive, they made it. So I'm saying you got to put teams behind the chains. You got to do that now. You got to do that this year. You have an offense that can actually make use of field position. You know, they can take advantage of mistakes, this offense. Because as I say, Kirk Cousins, yeah, he's an older quarterback, but he can still make all the throws. And he's still very experienced. All right, there's nothing you can do on the field on defense that Kirk Cousins hasn't seen. So give him a chance with shorter yardage fields. Give him a chance from the 40. Give him a chance from the 45. You know, and give him a short field to drive on and see how well that Falcons defense goes. And I think you're going to be surprised at how well it works. But you can't do that until you get the defense in place, and you got to have that edge rusher.
Well, we have a couple of other scenarios other than the trade back ones we've already discussed have been thrown out there by our listeners, and I want to get to them before ending our show today. Khalil Hunter says Falcons will draft a QB with the number 8 pick. We've hit on that Hunter in the last month or so, you know, at various times on the show. And I think I said originally that if they believe in Penix, they scouted him, they took everyone to his scouting day and took a look at him. If they believe in him, then yeah, if you believe in a quarterback, you draft that quarterback is what I would say. But he could be there for them in the second round. And my argument for why they shouldn't draft a quarterback that high, Hunter, is they have Kirk Cousins. They have this window where they should be trying to win now. for the next 2 years with Cousins as their quarterback. They didn't sign Cousins so that they can draft developmental players in the first round or any round, really. They need to grab players that are going to help the team make the playoffs in 2024, which is why I would say Dallas Turner is the pick, because I think Dallas Turner will make them better immediately, and if maybe not in September like a Jared Verse could, but by the end of the season, he is the guy that will make them more dangerous competing for the NFC South and a dangerous out in the playoffs, hopefully. So that's why I would go away from, or stay away from drafting a quarterback in the first round.
Well, that's why the Falcons made those moves on defense last year, and the moves they've made on offense this year. Is they want their window is open. According to the Falcons, they feel their window is open. And drafting a quarterback number 1 this year does not help them with that open window. They've made moves to compete this year. So, and they have to get an impact player to compete this year. This is their time. And that's how they've set it up. Maybe, 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that. I would have said this would have been a long rebuild. They did a lot of work on the defense and, pumping up their offense, through the draft to make the scenario that they compete this year a reality. And when it comes down to it, I still think you get that quarterback you want next year. If you want a developmental quarterback, you could get him next year. Now, I agree with Dave here. Yeah, if you think he's your guy, if you think he is the man, if you loved what you saw when you sent the entire front office and coaching staff to Washington, and he's your guy, yeah, you get him now. I wouldn't argue with that. But from the scouting reports I've read, and yeah, again, they're online scouts, but they are scouts who followed the game for a long time. And they see weaknesses in his game. They see things in his game he has to improve on. And not to say he can't do that in a couple of years under Kirk Cousins, but that's a couple of years down the road. The Falcons are not looking a couple of years down the road. Falcons are looking at next year. And they're looking at 2025. So keep that in mind. The Falcons are not looking past 2025 right now.
Which is another reason why I think these trade scenarios, going full circle here on the show, of them trading back all the way to 19 or 24, I don't think they're super realistic, because I think they're looking at this as we have an opportunity to compete right now. And that doesn't mean they're going to take Turner like we suggest, but they could take a cornerback who they think is going to immediately help the defense. They could take a wide receiver who they think will immediately help Kirk Cousins, who they just signed. But I do think that if they move back at all, it's going to be small to the point where whoever they want at 8 is still going to be there at 11 or 12 or wherever they trade back to. Trading back to 24, you're giving up on a lot of players and building for the future, which I don't think the Falcons really want to do right now.
No, they don't.
One more proposal, but real quick, Tom. Would you do this trade? Trade Kyle Pitts to Carolina for 2 early second-round picks and take Brock Bowers to replace him at number 8.
Wow. That's very tempting. And Corey, that's a very tempting thought. Because Bowers is considered, a top tight end. He's kind of the guy that they expect to make an impact this year. That it depends on what you think of Pitts. And this is a new coaching staff. So they're going to draw their own opinion of Pitts. You would like to think that they're going to draw their own opinion of Pitts this summer as they see him in OTAs, as they see him in training camp. But, man, getting Bowers now.
I can see the argument for it because you add you reset the clock with your star tight end in terms of rookie contract. If Bowers and Pitts end up being the same, which they might not be, but let's just say they're the same. Well, you get a younger player and you get a player that is going to be on a rookie deal for 4 seasons, where Pitts has already played 3 years. You got to make a decision on him.
You got to make a decision
immediately. So Bowers, you reset the clock, and you get 2 early second-round picks in the process. That is pretty tempting. But I've been saying Dallas Turner or Latu is the pick in the first round for the Falcons this year. And I'm going to stick with that and say, no, they shouldn't do this trade. They should take the edge rusher. And they already got their tight end. They just need to sign him to an extension and get him involved in the offense. I think a lot of the problems that Pitts has been experiencing has been offense and coaching and just flat out game planning. Pitts hasn't been a big enough part of the game plan in Atlanta. And I think that's going to change this year.
Oh, so do I. You're not going to see Kyle Pitts blocking down on the line, just on the edge. You had to get Robinson in the end zone or to get Jonnu Smith free. It's just not going to happen. So you're getting essentially basically the same tight end. But I think the Falcons still believe in Pitts. And I think that's one of the reasons why Arthur Smith was let go, because he wasn't giving Pitts the kind of calls. Pitts wasn't getting the opportunities that Fontenot thought he should have been getting. And general managers don't like to be wrong, especially on 5th overall picks. So I would say they're going to keep Pitts for this next season and see if they can't plug him in and plug him into the new offense and make something happen with him. Because Pitts is still, he's still a deadly receiver down the field. He's still a guy who can get, he's going to get by your linebackers. He's going to get loose in the middle of the field. I want to see him run more seam routes. And take advantage of his speed that way and make defenses have to make a decision between keeping your linebacker off on him or letting the linebacker hand off to the safety, where mistakes can happen and that's where a tight end can get open in the seam. So I kind of would still like to see that. And yeah, considering if we're looking at the Falcons are looking at a 2-year window, I think they keep Pitts and let Bowers go somewhere else and star somewhere else, because I think Bowers is going to be a star.
We'll see where Bowers and everybody lands on Thursday in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. We'll be here to recap the first and second and third rounds on Saturday at noon. So you can tune into our show on your computer or phone or laptop and have the beginning of day 3 of the draft on the TV. So we'll be back at noon Eastern time next Saturday. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday today.
Yep. Looking forward to the draft Thursday night. Can't wait to see what the Falcons do. So let's have a great week, everyone.